Well, I want to take a step back and talk about how you became interested in the music industry and hip hop, because not everybody might know this, but not only are you a podcaster, Go produces a podcast that talks about how to turn your passion into profit. It's educational, at the same time very entertaining. I've listened to a bunch of episodes. I love it. If you haven't heard Go Produce yet, go over there. They actually give you tangible and useful tips that you can use as an artist to turn your passion into profit. So, Lou, thank you for taking a little time out of your schedule to do this interview. I want to talk about how you became first interested in music and hip-hop.
It was truly bizarre. It started off as I recently wrote a bio because I was submitting a grant application. And so this is the brief story.
I love a good bio. I love a good bio.
So this is how I started it off. Essentially, I was on this path of self-discovery, and it sounds really cheesy and corny, but like a lot of chaos was happening in my life. I was working in the pharmaceutical industry. I was far from happy. I was gaining weight. I could feel myself just being angry. Like someone would cut me off on the road and I would just yell. And then I realized that I just yelled. I was like, I'm not an angry person and I don't want to be an angry person. So chaos ensued. I was like, I have enough of this. What can I do to like figure out what I want to do? Because at that point in time, I had no answers. And so I started reading. I did a couple of like Google searches, how to become better at life. Like, what should I be doing so that I can become more efficient? Very like random questions, but one article led to the next. And it led me down this more narrow path of like self-discovery, but then towards personal development. I got more aware of what I could do. And as I was doing these different or applying these different strategies to myself, I became more fascinated with this world, and I found a new sense of confidence within myself. The confidence then led to me wanting to share the lessons that I've recently acquired with other people, and that grew into a motivational speaking kind of attempt. That was a very short-lived period, but during that period, I actually hired a speaking coach. I was part of Toastmasters. I still am part of Toastmasters, this organization that helps you develop communication and professional skills. And with all of this, I spent a lot of time writing. I didn't spend a lot of time writing in my previous life, but it was writing out ideas, writing out outlines. I recently started writing in like a journal as well, so I was doing a lot of writing. And this allowed me to develop a greater appreciation for putting your thoughts out onto like something physical instead of just storing everything in your head.
Right.
And I didn't realize it at the time, but there was a lot of crossover here between writing speeches and then writing songs. The big difference for me was when you're writing speeches and you go to rehearse them, there's no music in the background, at least when I was rehearsing. And I was like, what is going on? I really don't like this. And I realized it was the lack of music. And all of the music that I was listening to at the time was more so less dancey, but more lyrical. So I was actually listening to the people because I was taking their thoughts, maybe because I was more in tune with my own thoughts. And so I said, why not let me try and put my thoughts towards music the way that these people are doing so. And my appreciation for hip-hop grew during that time because it swayed away from like, oh, hip-hop is just negative and like gruesome and like just stuff that I can't relate to, towards maybe I can just share my kinds of emotions. And I started discovering other kinds of artists that are doing something similar in their own styles. So I was like, I gotta try this a little bit more. And I fell a little bit more in love with hip hop. Music itself has always been around, and I had an appreciation. And now that the more that I do music itself and I apply I consider myself to be an artist, the more I realize that music was more intimately enveloped in the rest of my life. Right. But I wouldn't have said that I was a creative individual whatsoever before 26 years old.
Wow, really? Because it seems like when people are creatives, it's kind of something that they carry with them all their lives, Like, it's interesting to say that you don't think that you were creative until just recently. Do you think that it kind of, like, almost like you had to kind of find it in yourself, like you didn't know that you had it, and it was just a matter of taking the right steps in order to kind of get to the point where you were like, oh, maybe I can actually do this like consistently?
Absolutely. There were a couple of different events that like triggered change, and that probably accelerated it. But there were different cues throughout, like, before 26 years old, that almost indicated that, like, yeah, you have the potential to do this, but I never actually considered that to be a thing. Like, I was always interested in, like, filming things, but I never considered myself to be a videographer or like that kind of stuff. Like, I was science. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to, like, help save lives. It's black or white. There's no, like, in between. You're right, you're wrong, you know? And that might be due to some of the conversations that I've had with people in the past, like, oh, you know, religion is creation and it's all against evolution. And I was like, no, it's only evolution. So I kind of just blocked off creation even more than I anticipated. And that was kind of, I guess, detrimental to the rest of my development, but it was cool when I was able to discover it later. Not that now I'm religious, but I have more appreciation for spirituality and for creation.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It's interesting to,